All right, it's kit time. This is a GY18971. Do those numbers mean anything? I don't know. I'll try to put links of it. I'm trying to put links in everything down below. I don't know if Banggood has this or not. I signed up for the Banggood affiliate thing, so if you buy something from Banggood, I get like 4%. I get a couple bucks. Yeah. Otherwise, I don't care who you buy it from, but if you do buy it from them, I do get a couple bucks. So there you go. Let's get it out into a tray. Everybody likes my yellow tray. All right, let's see what we got here. Wow, this is quite extensive. It is a LCD display FM radio receiver DIY kit. Oh, another FM radio. All right. And here is the circuit diagram. It looks like one IC and that's it. Not much of a kit, is it? Wow. Okay, well, this might be a bummer. That's extensive instructions in the back. Install, remove, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Let's see what we got. It comes in a case, though. That's nice. Okay, so this one actually goes in a case. Has a reasonable speaker. So that's kind of nice. Let's see here. It looks like an 8-ohm speaker. 5 watts. Really? 5 watts? I'm not sure about that, but okay, 5 watts. A nice Lexan acrylic case. Some screws for the case, and then this looks like the electronics part. Let's take a look at that. Lots of bubble wrap. All right, another bag. Woo! Okay, oh, antenna. I love telescoping antennas. Very, very cool. You know, before laser pointers, in my briefcase, I used to carry a pointer. So raise your hand if you had a telescopic pointer when you did lecturing, right? So when you did a lecture, you could pull out your pointer and you looked very official. They weren't a telescopic antenna that was repurposed. They were actually meant to be pointers. The tip was different. It wasn't an antenna tip. It was a little pointer tip, and it didn't have a funny screw thing at the other end. But no, they had a pocket clip on them too. I remember, so you could put them in your pocket like a ballpoint pen, and then whoop, and then you could do your lecturing on the board. I suppose on chalkboards back in the day. I remember I had a chalkboard when I was a kid to do my physics on. These days, and then I went upgraded to whiteboards when I first got my first job. I think whiteboards were kind of invented back then. Everybody went from chalk to whiteboards, which was much, much better. Here's a good story. Well, let's see. I'll save the story. We'll save the story. Okay. So we have a little display, and it has a bunch of ICs on the back. So, yeah, I don't know what's up with that. That's just the display, or that's the whole radio? No, I think that's just for the display. Yeah, I think that's the radio. I think that's the radio. And then it comes with a little battery charger board. So I have a bunch of these. So great, USB in, and then it's a charging circuit for lithium, and it does the auto switching as well. So. And then this must be for a lithium battery. So this thing is lithium powered. It has its own charger. And yeah, so that's pretty cool. And then the radio part is the boring part. It's just one little chip, and that does the radio. So anyway, yeah, let's see. Let's start to build this thing. Remind me to tell you the story about whiteboards. Okay, since it's a surface mount part, I'm going to put that on first. I had a viewer comment I was doing my normal technique where I put a blob of solder and then solder down one leg and do the rest. I see lots of people do that. But they had the suggestion of using glue. Now, a lot of times in pick and place machines in production, the first thing they do is they put down little dobs of glue, and then when they put down all the parts, they're glued in place, and then they solder them. And that's an extra step and expense that you have to go through. And I think it's probably okay for production boards. It's very, very valuable if you're doing a two-sided board. You need to glue everything down so when you turn it upside down, it doesn't fall out. But for home projects, I disagree with the guy. I think for home projects, going the extra step of a little bit of glue is just kind of way overkill, and you have to wait for the glue to cure. And if it's UV curing, most of these things are UV curing, so you have to have a UV light. Yeah, I think it's just like an overkill for the garage. So I don't recommend it. But you can do it. You can do you. All right? I don't care. If that's what you like, that's fine. All right, let me put a little blob of solder here in the corner. There we go. I'm going to put my magnifier glass in here. Hope that's not in the way of the camera too badly. And I'm going to come over here. I'm going to hold this with tweezers in case I burn myself. Grab a hold. All right. See, that's easy. You don't need, so now I can turn it upside down. It doesn't fall off, right? So that's much easier than putting on a blob of glue and then having to cure it and then going back. I mean, this is just very, very quick. Very, very quick. I'm going to have to do this all under magnification and lighting because my old eyes are not that good. Everybody knows I was into optics, and you know, by age 40, almost everybody needs glasses. Your lens is a little sack, and there's muscles on the sides, and the muscles pull, and it stretches out the lens or makes the lens fatter, and that's the way you focus. That's where your lens focuses. These muscles pull it and thin it out and make it focus farther away, or they let it shrink and then make it goes bigger, and you can focus in closer. And as you get older, the goo that's inside the lens isn't as pliable anymore, and you end up not being able to stretch that lens, and so everybody kind of ends up only being able to see at one distance, and everything else is blurry. And that's why you need glasses when you get old. Okay, there we go. All right, we got that in there. All right, it's kind of dark in here today. I don't know why. All right, I've got some 10K resistors. So, did you tell me I was supposed to tell the story about the whiteboard? So we were building cell phone cameras. The group I was in built some of the world's very first cell phone cameras, which reminds me of a story about Steve Jobs. So remember to tell me a story about Steve Jobs. We were building these cell phone cameras, and you know, when you're building ICs, you have to have clean rooms to keep everything clean. And they're very, very, you know, you see people in bunny suits, you know, you've heard that term, where they go in the air shower and go in to do their processing stuff. So, you know, people are used to those things. But if you're doing optical assembly, you have to have a reasonable clean room. Not they have like class 100, class 10, and there's all these classes of things. That was backwards. I'm going to put that in the other way. Anyway, so you need a reasonable one so you don't get lint and stuff in your camera, which would make a bad day. Some of the very first cameras we built, we didn't have a clean room, and so they would go into QA, and they'd see this big. So if you have a camera, there's the CMOS imager, and if dirt gets in there and lands on your CMOS imager, you end up with a big black spot in the picture. And so let's say this is the little camera module that you're building, right? And you've just glued it in place, and you put the lens on it, and you focus the lens, and you glue the lens in place, and now everything's good. Now you're ready to sell this thing. But that goes into the quality control, and the quality control guy hooks it up and lights it up and takes its very first picture, and he sees these big black dots, and so he says, "Oh, that's a bad one." They reject it, right? So that's the way it should work. Well, what they would do was they would look and they say, "Oh, there's a black dot there," and then they go whack, 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 whack on the bench and try to dislodge the dirt, and they would do the test again, and the test would show good, and they'd say, "Okay, that's a good part," and then they would ship it. Very bad idea, because that dirt might come back later. Anyway, we had to teach them not to do that. So we told them, you need a clean room because it needs to be clean. And so they made a clean room. And so we went to inspect the clean room to see how it was doing. And so it was reasonable. They had, it wasn't perfect, but, people had hairnets and stuff. And on the wall was a whiteboard. You know how much dust a whiteboard creates? So, yeah. Do not put a whiteboard in your clean room. And don't use paper either. Paper's really bad. There's special paper for clean rooms. Yeah. All kinds of stuff for clean rooms. Super expensive stuff. Yeah. Lint and dandruff, skin, all kinds of crappy stuff gets around in clean rooms. I didn't put that resistor on very good, did I? Jesus. Not doing a good job today. I don't know how to solder. Damn, I don't know how to solder. All right. Switches. Got a lot of switches. I like those. Oh, really long switches. Look at that. I've never seen a switch with a push button on it that long. That was really, really long. Wow. So one of the first cameras we built, we sold to Apple, and Apple put it in their iPhone. So iPhones had cameras. It wasn't the first one. So Sony Ericsson, I think, had the first one, and then Motorola had some. I think Apple was late to the game. And I actually interviewed for that job once, the head of cameras for Apple, and I was kicked out the door. I wasn't kicked out the door, but I didn't get the job. I was not Apple material. You have to come in and say, everybody's wonderful, and oh my God, it's such a privilege to work at Apple. I can't imagine working anywhere else, and I'll do anything you say, and I will work crazy hours and give up my life. And then you might get hired. But I was not Apple material. But the first camera, Steve Jobs very proudly showed it at one of the, he used to have those events when they were rolling out a new product. They would have this big event and they'd be on TV, and he'd give this big spiel about how wonderful Apple was and everything, and he'd bring out the latest technology, right? And he brought out the first iPhone with a camera in it. And if you've ever seen Steve Jobs, he always wears the same thing. He always wears a black turtleneck, a black thing. And when you are on stage, there's stage lighting. It's very, very bright stage lighting. And the camera has a difficult time with bright lights, especially stage lighting, which is really, really high intensity tungsten. And tungsten lighting has a lot of infrared light. That's why studio lights are very, very hot, because at least they are back then. I mean, they have LED and stuff now, but very, very hot IR coming out of the stage lighting. Now, cell phone cameras do not like IR. Any camera, any digital camera does not like IR. the pigments used in the RGB, the red, green, blue. So the pixels are all black and white, and then you put dyes or pigments on top of the pixels, and it lets red light into one, green light into one, and blue light into the other. And these pigments are all transparent at infrared wavelengths. And so cameras do not work as is. If you buy a sensor and you go to take a picture, you're going to take a really, 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 really bad picture. You have to have an IR filter in the chain. You have to have an IR filter between the lens and the sensor. Otherwise, it doesn't work. It don't work. And IR filters are tricky things to make. There's two main ways to make them. You can make them out of glass, blue-green glass. The blue-green glass lets through all wavelengths except red. It knocks out the red and it lowers your IR. And anyway, blue-green glass. That's one way to make them. That's called an absorptive filter. The IR gets absorbed and turned into heat, and it disappears. The other way to make it is with a interference filter, a thin film interference filter. And really, really, really good cameras do both. They have both absorptive and thin film. And the reason for that is that thin film filters are angle dependent. If you tilt them, their color changes. So the center of the picture will look different than the edge of the picture. You'll have a color shift, and that can be troublesome. And blue-green glass does not have that problem. It looks the same color no matter what direction you look. So. All right, so what's that have to do with Steve Jobs? So Steve Jobs is on the stage, and it's a lot of tungsten and a lot of IR, and the IR filters were not very good that they chose. And when IR leaks through an IR filter and strikes a camera, black is no longer black. Black looks purple. Bright purple. And guess what? Steve Jobs' black turtleneck lit up like it was a bright purple turtleneck, and it looked terrible. And he soldiered on, but as you know a little bit about Steve Jobs, he's not a pleasant person when things don't go his way. And you can imagine that he was irate. He was irate. And guess this goes on. So the next day, the vendors who make the IR filter got a phone call. Not a very pleasant phone call, saying your IR filters are crap. They're terrible. And we need to fix that immediately. And these were Japanese companies that built the IR filters, two Japanese companies. They had two vendors. And so happened that I was in Asia at the time. And I was told, oh man, I just screwed up. I cut off a pin because I thought it was too long, but it isn't exactly the right size. And I got to find another one of these. That happens when you talk. Luckily, I have one right here. Okay, let's see if I can fix this again. You guys want story time, but look, it screws me up. All right. There we go. All right. Where was I? Crap. So I was in Asia. I don't remember where I was, what country I was in. but I was told, change your plans, change your travel itinerary, and get on a plane and go to Tokyo. Let me turn my slider grant back on. Time's out after 30 minutes. Crap. All right, get on a plane, go to Tokyo. Big problem. So we're building the camera. They're giving us IR lenses that are no good, or IR filters that are no good. So I end up in Tokyo and go to this meeting. And the two different companies that build IR filters were there. And Apple was there. Some guy from Apple was there. And probably shouldn't tell this story, I'll get sued, but a long time ago. So one of the filter companies had good IR filters, the other company did not. And they said, how do you do that? And so it's trade secret, you know, company secret. Oh. Why don't you tell the other company how to do that? I just told you it's a company secret, trade secret. Yeah. Why don't you tell that other company how to do it? You hear what I'm saying? So basically they said, we will find somebody else to do this project. Or you can tell that other company how to do it. And they weren't very pleased, as nobody would be. And they went home that night, and we all came back the next day. And they had decided they would tell the other company how to do it. Well, there you go. Sometimes you need to take your lumps in business. When the gorilla tells you to do something, you do it. All right. Where's the thing that I'm soldering? Where did it just go? There, here it is. Jeez, it's tiny. This one might be tight. This might be tiny, tiny, little tiny things to solder down. That's going to be hard. That's going to be hard. Wow. I only need to get the two outside ones, so it's just the power. And they are not touching the board. How wonderful. So I need to heat these up while I push down. Ouch. It gets hot. Okay, I'll push it down this way. Is that flat on the board now? Yeah. There we go. There, that's better. All right. Jeez, this is going to be tough. This is going to be tough. All right. All right. That was a strange business to be in, a cell phone camera business. They were all customer specials. There was basically no standard part. They were all built special for customers, and basically if you wanted to buy one, I think that's on there. If you wanted to buy one, you had to buy 1 million. You know, like minimum quantity, 1 million. Yep. So Our customer list was a very, very selective list. Not many companies. Sony Ericsson, Nokia, Motorola, Apple, BlackBerry. Yeah, very small list. Oh man, am I missing a capacitor? Maybe it's not needed. Out of these kits, I seem to be always missing parts out of the kit. I do not see it. I'm assuming this goes here. That's our little display. Put that on later. Put that on later. Take it off. Okay. Speaker goes on there. Charging. I guess we need to put our little charger board on here. I've done this before. Little placeholder for putting this on. And we can use little pins to use and do that. Oops. All of the people I worked with on, not everybody, but a lot of the people I worked with at Hewlett-Packard doing cameras, oh, I don't like those, take those away, are now at Apple. It's funny, I interviewed for the job at Apple, and they passed me up, but they hired my friend. And which was actually a good thing for me, because the very first thing he did was he said, "Hey Mark, can you sell me your calibration routine?" So he helped me send my daughter through college, which is a good thing. I was consulting, I was moonlighting, right? People don't know that term. I don't know if it's an American term or whatever. Moonlighting means that you already have a job, and in the nighttime, in the moonlight, you go do a second job. And sometimes you tell your boss that you do that, and sometimes you keep it a secret. So, moonlighting. Now, most companies will tell you, "Oh, you can't do that. That's against our policy." And well, that's just a bunch of hogwash. I've only worked at one company where they had a policy about consulting off hours. Every other company I worked with, you were fine to do whatever you did on your personal time, and they weren't going to ask. And that was that. Now, the only company that I always told my boss, I was always upfront, but I wasn't under legal obligation to do that. The only time I was under legal obligation to do it when I was a director level position at a company, and there are rules and regulations about board of directors and stock and stuff, and you have to be honest about other places you work at, so there's no conflict of interest and stuff, and you have to have that on a document that says, "Hey, by the way, you know, I work for this company, or I do that, or blah 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 blah." And so I had to fill out a piece of paper that said, hey, I'm consulting. But that's all it was, is a piece of paper. Don't let it stop you. Do not let it stop you. And I highly encourage it. I highly encourage moonlighting. I moonlighted from about, I must have moonlighted at least 20 years of my career. I must have had side jobs for about 20 years at the end. And then I retired, and then I started consulting full time, so. Is it time to start paying attention to what I'm doing here? Battery goes there. Antenna goes there. I got an extra switch. I don't know why they gave me an extra switch. The little display goes over here. Speaker goes on there. Yeah. I think we're pretty much ready to go. Says we should have a 0.01 microcapacitor there. It's on the input of the. It's not really needed, but since it's there, and since I've got a big pile of them somewhere, I'm going to go get one and put it in. Yeah, that's a long story. I should tell you that story sometime. How I was sold. Companies basically own you like property, and they can use you as bartering chips and sell you to other companies. It's quite distasteful. That's another day when I'm angry. All right. And this watch, people have pointed out this watch. This watch is a reminder to me never to trust a company. That the companies are not your friend. And a company did a bad thing to me, and I was left on my own, and I did some things and made a bunch of money that I wouldn't have unless they had sold me and pissed me off. And I did some work, and I made a lot of money, and I rewarded myself with a nice watch. And every time I look at that watch, it reminds me, never trust the man. Never trust the company, no matter how nice they are, what they say. When push comes to shove, they don't care about you. They do not. All right. So let me think about this a bit, and we'll try to get it together. Okay. I've put a fake battery here. I've put in 4.2 volts on the battery connector. Let's push on the button. Oh, it's backlit. There you go, 87 megahertz. And there's a volume and auto. It says there's no speaker. It knows there's no speaker. That's pretty cool. Wow, okay. Let's hook up the speaker. All right, I hooked up the speaker, but I'm an idiot. This thing did not tell me, oh, Bo, you don't have a speaker hooked up. It was a speaker mute. That says no speaker, so mute. So if you hit this button, it turns on and it's giving us music. So it's got programming, and it's got scanning, and it I poked my solder in a hole, so that's my antenna, my solder antenna. Oh, I don't know what that does. Auto. Oh. Oh, what's that doing? Oh, it's finding all the stations and programming them into memory. Oh, that's pretty cool. Is that a good? I don't know if that's a good camera angle. Is that better? Oh, it's turned the back. The backlight's bad. But when the backlight turned off, that's better. I can get the focus on this thing. Come on, you can do it. There we go. That's kind of loud. Let's turn down the speaker. Ah, quiet. I don't think it's letting us do anything while it's scanning. Ah, stop that. Ah, there we go. I can turn down the volume. This is speaker down, speaker plus, program up, program down. So yeah, it's got a bunch of memory, so it's programmed them all in there. Well, that's pretty cool. I like that. Okay. So you can connect the battery up, and that'll work. And then you can put it in a box. Oh, here's the. I found the capacitor. Okay, and they gave me the capacitor. I didn't need to go find one. I think it was stuck to the speaker, magnetic. But this one fits better. Anyway, use that one. Let's see what I want to do. Yeah, let's put it in the box. Okay, here it is all in the case, and there's a little charging port over here, so we can disconnect that, and our charging light goes out. We can push the button, and the radio comes on. So all the buttons are kind of recessed. You need something to kind of poke in there. I didn't actually attach the antenna yet. Kind of cheating there. But here you go. So it is all self-contained. It was very, very difficult trying to find room for this battery. The case is just a little bit too small for this part here. It is kind of bulgy in there. It just doesn't. If you didn't have to have any wires in there, it'd be okay. But these wires need to go from one side to the other, and yeah, the battery disc gets in the way. I guess you could route the wires around the battery over here. I don't know. There's just not a lot of room in there. Anyway, it is all a nice little kit, though. It all goes together. There's really not much soldering. It's mostly just a fun little project to do, and it does work. Has a reasonable speaker and stuff in it, so yeah, it's kind of fun. Somebody wants to build a radio, they'll say, hey, look what I built. Anyway, yeah, I give it a thumbs up. It's pretty cool.